I'm going to show you how you can get rich in sports betting this year in 5 easy steps. Let's get into it. Now, if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure you guys like and subscribe to the channel and also share so that way other people can actually get the right information on how to win in sports betting. So the first thing that we're going to focus on here when we want to make this year our best year yet is going to be stop betting teams, okay? We're going to stop betting on teams to win. This is a huge thing when it comes to sports betting with a lot of people. They always want to know who's going to win the game, okay? But I'm going to give you some factors of why we need to stop betting on teams on who's going to win the game, all right? Because this long term, doing it this way, you're not going to be profitable. You're just not going to long term. Once in a while, you could sprinkle in a team here and there, but trying to just strictly bet on teams to win and that's it, it's going to be a downhill battle. Trust me, okay? I've been doing this for 10 plus years. So the first reason is there's too many variables, all right? So when you are looking at one team, okay, there's too many players on that team to know exactly what the projection of every single player is with every single matchup that they're going against. There's too many, and there's just too many variables that are involved in that to be able to calculate every single player and every single matchup, because that's how you would be able to see if a team is going to win or not. You cannot just go into there thinking, this team's better than this team, so that's why I'm going to play them. That is a losing strategy. Okay, a lot of people do that, but that's a losing strategy. You will not win long term thinking the better team is always going to win. That's not how it works. Okay, just because the team is better than the other team does not mean they're going to beat them, especially in professional sports. Because in professional sports, any team can beat any team. They're all professionals. And to seriously make money, you cannot just be out there thinking like, oh, let me just throw money on this team because they're the better team. Just can't. All right, so there's too many variables to be able to calculate and get an exact probability if a team is going to beat another team. Now, going to what I was just saying, math you can't really use to predict a winner of a game. All right, you can't use the math. Like, the only way that that's possible is literally getting every single probability of every single player versus every single matchup and doing all the calculations correctly. And even when you do all of that, to mash them all together to know which side is going to have the advantage is nearly impossible. So you just can't. You can't use math to predict who's going to win an actual game. So the best thing to do is just to lay off betting teams to win. I know it's the most exciting thing to do, and most people just love to have action on who's going to win the game, but this isn't how you're going to be able to profit, and this is not how you're going to be able to be successful and really gain a bunch of money in the new year. Now, this is going to bring us to number 2. Number 2 is going to be obviously the opposite of what I just said for number 1 there. What we're going to do is we're going to bet on props. Now, a lot of people like to think, oh, like props are not what you want to do. You want to be able to pick the winner. You want to be able to pick the totals or whatnot. No, props is where you want to be at. And I'm going to show you exactly the reason why. For props, there's the complete opposite for teams. There's less variables. Okay, there's less variables. You got one player. You're betting a prop on one player, and that's it. They're either going to do it or they're not. It's that simple. So when that happens, what you can get on that player is a true probability. Okay, you can get a true probability percentage of whether that player is going to go under or over the certain prop just for themselves. And what you can also take into account is the matchup. Okay, having a matchup edge. That's where you're going to want to land, because when you look at a prop and it has the true probability percentage that you want and has the great matchup that you have as well, now you've got something. Okay, now you've got something that's predictable. Okay, you don't have something that's a guess. You have something that you know if you play this play a certain amount of time, there's going to be a certain percentage of it being able to win. Now, to be successful with props, what you have to do is you have to be able to find that matchup edge within the prop that you're looking at and compare the true probability and the implied probability. So the implied probability is the number the sportsbook gives you. Okay, so let's say it's minus 200. Well, that's an implied probability of 66%. Now, the true probability is what's that event actually going to happen. That's the percentage, okay? The percentage of that event actually going to happen with the matchup, with a great matchup, with a good matchup edge on an over and a bad matchup edge with an under, okay? So when we're looking at that, true probability, for example, let's say our true probability on a play that we're looking at, a prop that we're looking at, is 76%. That gives us right there plus 10%, okay? That's what you're looking for. You're looking for that type of play, That's what you're looking for when it comes to props. You can't do this with teams, okay? You could do this with props though. So that is where you could zone in, and this is where you're going to actually be able to make money consistently and actually get predictable income every single month to where you could actually stack it rather than just hoping that you're going to win. And that right there is a losing strategy because there is no hope. You have to make it happen, okay? Then another thing with props is you have more options, okay? You got more options. So in pretty much a slate of games, let's say there's 5 NFL games on. Well, you only have, if you're picking the team, you got what, 5 games, right? But with props, you have plenty of options within just one game of plays that are going to have a good matchup, the true probability going against the implied probability that's going to give you an edge. Okay, you have way more options there rather than just picking who's going to win the game or the total over and under. Now, if you guys want to fast forward through all this and you guys want the best plays that come from every single strategy that I have made over the last 10 years, make sure you guys click the link in the description. Now, let's get to number 3 here. Number 3 is going to be everybody's favorite, okay? We're going to talk about parlays. So, parlays, there's ones that you can do and there's ones that you should absolutely never do. Okay, so parlays, most people like to bet 5, 6 teams, they mash them all together, and they chuck and pray. That's pretty much how it goes. Okay, that's not what you want to do here. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to avoid those random parlays, which is your 7 legs, 8 legs, those type of plays. Okay, you just want to avoid those type. You don't want to do those whatsoever. The reason why you don't want to do those is because when you're putting a bunch of plays together, the percentage of you actually getting every single one drastically drops the more legs that you put into that mix. Okay, it drastically drops. So, for example, and I've seen this so many times in sports betting, and I'm sure you guys have too, is online, on Twitter, whatever, you'll see posts of people putting touchdown parlays where they put 5 or 6 together and they put down $10 and they win $10,000. That never happens, okay? And when it does, that person will be betting $10 plays the rest of their life and never hit that play ever again. The reason being is because the percentage of each play that they put together is like 10-15%. Then you wedge them all together, you're getting like 0.02% chance of winning. And the implied odds versus true probability are always negative. They are always negative. Okay, so avoid this at all costs. Avoid dumb parlays. You don't want to do dumb parlays. Now what you want to do is, now what is a smart parlay? A smart parlay is when you have 2 or 3 legs that each have 90% true probability of winning, okay? So if you put 2 to 3 props, okay, props, not teams, but if you put 2 to 3 props together and each of those have a 90% or more true probability of winning, then you've put together a parlay that's actually going to give you a plus edge. It's not going to give you a negative edge, okay? But again, this has to line up with going back to step 2 there, okay? Where they need to have the matchup and it needs to have that true probability, needs to be a plus side, okay? Now, how you get that, again, is matchup and having the true probability on your side. And then once you have 2 or 3, 90% or more, and you wedge them all together, now you've given yourself, to hit a parlay that's 2 or 3 legs, you've given yourself, most likely, if they're all like 90%, around that 75 to 80% mark of that actually being able to hit. And then your odds on that most likely are going to be like minus 200 or minus 250. So that's going to give you a plus edge. Okay? That's a smart parlay. A stupid parlay is what I explained up here, is where you just put a bunch of stuff together and you chuck and pray, and it's a lottery ticket, and it's never going to hit. Okay? Even though you see it so much on social media, it's never going to happen for you. But if you stop doing that and you do it the smart way, well, guess what? The smart way, you're going to win more, and people aren't even going to believe that you're actually winning on parlays. But when you explain to them exactly what I just explained to you, is you're giving yourself the best opportunity to win, okay? Because when you put 2 to 3 legs together at 90% true probability apiece, that right there is going to set yourself up for long-term success. Now, before we get to step 4, I want to cover one thing. Most people ask me, and in the comments, you'll see this when I post certain things, is how are you able to profit like this long-term? Because if you're taking odds that are minus 200, minus 300, if you're in that realm, how do you profit long-term? Well, I'm about to show you exactly how that's possible, all right? So for example, what we're going to do here is we're going to say that you have 10 cards, all right? We got 10 cards. 8 of those cards have something written on them, okay? 2 of them don't. And what we're going to say here is, what you're going to do is you're going to wager $100, okay? And if you pick a card that has something written on it, you're going to get $50. So you're going to get $150 in total, okay? So if we do this 10 times, let's say over the course of 10 times here, we pick a card. Out of those, look, it's 8. 8 of those cards have something written on them, all right? So we're going to write down what happens here. So the first time, we're going to say, pull a card, it's got something written on it. Second time, got it again. Third time, got it again. Fourth time, you didn't. Fifth time, got it again. Sixth time, again. 7, you're on a roll now. 8, like I said, you're on a roll. Wait, now you've lost one. And then 10, you got it again, all right? We're going to say this is what happens over the course of you doing it 10 times. Now, let's go ahead and add up how much money you've made here, okay? It's 100 there, 100 there, 100 there, 50, 100 there. So you've made 1, 2, 3, 400. You made $400, but you've lost twice. You lost 200. But how much money have you made? You have made $200. Being able for what? You putting down 100 and only getting $50 back. Because why? You have a true probability of 80% here. Because 8 of those cards have something written down on it. So out of the 10 pulls, you've literally pulled 80%. So what have you done? You have made $200 over the course of time. This is exactly what you do in sports betting, okay? Same thing applies here with minus 300. It's just the amount of money that you make in profit would go down, okay? It would just be a little bit less. But again, you're still profiting. And you just do this and replicate this over and over and over, and your unit size is going to correlate to how much money you make. So if you have a bigger unit size, obviously you're going to make more money. If you have a smaller unit size, you're still going to make money, you're just going to make a lower amount of money. It just correlates to what your unit size is. And that's what ROI really means, okay? This shows you exactly how you would do this long term and how you'd be successful long term in doing this. Because this is the only way to beat sports betting and to actually make a substantial of money from sports betting. Any other way, you're going to be chasing and you're just going to be gambling. This isn't gambling. This is calculated risk, okay? Calculated risk is the percentages are on my side, okay? I have an edge. I'm just going to keep multiplying that edge over time and giving myself even more and more money. Now let's get to number 4. Number 4 is going to correlate what I just talked about, okay? Long term. Because long term, you never bet negative edge. Never. Because long term, if you're betting a negative edge, you're going to lose money. Just like how in the casinos, if you're playing blackjack and the house edge is 5% or whatever on the table, well, that's a negative 5% edge. So if you're sitting there for 3 days straight, that edge is going to catch up to you on those hands that you play, and you're eventually just going to start losing. You're going to get drained out. That's what a negative edge is, and that's what it does. Same thing with sports betting. If you're betting a negative edge. So what is a negative edge? That means your implied probability, okay, and your true probability is negative, a negative percent. So if our implied probability is 66%, but our true probability is 55%, that gives us a negative 11% edge. And guess what? That multiplied long term is going to absolutely shred your bankroll. So never bet negative edge, because if you're going with negative edge, just think long term, you're going to drain your bankroll and you're going to lose long term, because that's what a negative edge is. A negative edge is the same thing, same concept in casinos, where all the table games, all the slot machines have a negative edge. So long term, you can never profit from anything in there. Now, once you're able to find plus edge on every single play, you're focusing on props, you're getting rid of betting on teams, you've got your unit size established, you've created your edge, and now you're just multiplying that long term. This is the last step now, okay? Because this is a little bit different than past, okay? In the past, sports books, okay, would ban you, okay? And they still will, but there's better options now, okay? You can still stick with your major sports books and whatnot, and still wager the same way that you need to wager, okay? Which would be your unit size correlating with your bankroll, okay? So again, bankroll is your amount of money. Your unit size is going to be your percentage of that bankroll, all right? So if you have 50,000 as a bankroll, your unit size should be anywhere from 500 to 1,500, which is 1 to 3%, okay? This is how we would keep this going, okay? But now, in the sports books, you will eventually get limited or banned betting higher unit sizes. That's just what's going to happen. All right, but now, new age, we got some peer-to-peer sports books to work with. Okay, peer-to-peer sports books mean you're going against other people, not necessarily just going against strictly the sports book to where they will ban you. As peer-to-peer, they won't ban you because you are going pari-mutuel, which means you are betting against other people. You're not betting against a sports book. All right, so that consists of, you guys might have seen commercials for it, but Kalshi, that's one. Okay, Poly Market is another one. These are ones that you can use now and not get limited. And this is how you can create this year to be the most money you've ever made in sports betting, because you're not going to get limited at these markets. Okay, as long as there's other people betting the other side, you're going to take their money. Okay, all you're going to do is just take all the money that comes in on the opposite side of people betting negative edge. Okay, and you can wager as much money as you want, because it all depends on how much money is in the pool on the bet that you're looking at. All right, so you could still bet at the sports books like normal with your unit size, okay? But you will eventually get limited or banned. It's just going to happen, okay? It's going to happen regardless. They're getting more and more strict as time goes on, so we're going to see what happens when it comes to that. Because now they're going up against markets like this, to where the sports books are going to have to do is they're going to have to lift the bans and the limits. They're going to have to, because if they don't, they're going to get run out of business by these guys. Okay, it's going to be that simple. So again, this is how you're going to be able to make the most amount of money this year, because now we're going to be able to see whether the sports books are going to be able to lift the bans and the limits, or we're just going to come all the way down here, and instead of sports books, we're going peer to peer, and now we're being able to wager as much as we want without worrying about getting limited. That's how you're going to get rich using sports betting this year.